Hey there, I'm sitting in my kitchen and I have a question for you. Would you be excited to learn that getting your DNA tested can tell you which foods of the world you should eat? What about taking a quick ancestral food tour? Stay tuned. Welcome to Eat Your DNA. My name is Angela. My philosophy is that our DNA is our personalized blueprint to healthier living. If you've ever struggled to figure out which foods to eat, you're in the right place. You can stop guessing and worrying about what to eat or trying to follow the latest fad diet. Let your genetics tell you which foods you should eat. Eat your DNA. Now, we all know that if you want to be healthy, you have to eat right, exercise, and get enough rest. We all know these things, but the problem is figuring out which foods we should be eating. I mean, there are dozens, maybe hundreds of diets out there, and everyone has a different twist or rule. Don't eat carbs, don't eat meat, only eat meat, eat raw foods, don't eat animal products. I mean, funny, I've never heard of the all carbs diet, but anyway, the point here is that there are a lot of diets out there and it can be overwhelming and confusing. But the thing is that we kind of have to figure this out if we want to give our bodies the foods that we should be eating to be healthy. At the beginning of this video, I asked you if you'd be excited to learn that getting your DNA tested can tell you which foods from which areas of the world you should eat. Well, with today's DNA technology, you can discover where you're from, your countries of origin, and with some research, you can then discover which foods you should be eating. And today I'm super excited because I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. Join me as we take an ancestral tour based on some of my DNA results. So last year, I got my DNA tested with AncestryDNA. It was super simple, and if you want more information about what that was like, you can please check out this video right here. I got my DNA results and I discovered a lot of interesting information. So my DNA shows that my ancestors came from 11 world regions. But for the purpose of this video, we're only going to look at my top 3 results and some of the foods from each one of those areas. These top 3 results add up to 63% of my DNA as of this time. As more and more people get their DNA tested with AncestryDNA, these numbers can change slightly. So let's go through my top 3 countries of origin. I'm so excited. My number 1 country of origin is Nigeria. And when doing research on foods indigenous to Nigeria, you would look at Western Africa, which includes 18 other countries. And some countries belong to more than one region, but Nigeria is smack dab in Western Africa. And this is a good time to talk about the difference between traditional and indigenous foods. The example I like to use is Italy and tomatoes. Tomatoes are an integral part of traditional Italian cooking, but they aren't indigenous to Italy. Tomatoes were brought to Italy from Asia. So for our purposes, remember that we're interested in indigenous foods, the foods that grow in an area naturally and were there for thousands of years. So finally, okay, here are the 3 foods indigenous to Nigeria and Western Africa. The first food on our ancestral food tour is fonio. And here are some things I learned about fonio. As I said, obviously, it's native to Western Africa. It's a whole grain related to millet. It's an ancient grain, and it's sometimes called a super grain because it has high levels of protein, B vitamins, iron, zinc, potassium, calcium, phosphorus, and other nutrients. It's higher in amino acids than many other grains, and it's interesting, I didn't even know this, that there are 3 different types of fonio, white, black, and Raishan varieties. But white fonio is the most popular type and usually the easiest to find. It's naturally vegan, and it's considered a good plant-based protein. It's often used as like a porridge or an oatmeal for breakfast, but it can also be used with savory dishes like stews, soups, meats, kind of like rice. I recently tried fonio and I was excited because, as I've mentioned before, I absolutely love rice. And I could eat rice every day. But I'm also trying to cut back on starches and gluten like many of us, and I'm also sick of quinoa, and it's just not rice enough for me. So fonio is often compared to quinoa. It's both are gluten-free, but fonio is supposed to feel more like rice, and it's one of my indigenous foods, so I was like, win-win, let me try it. So I bought this fonio, I have it sitting here, right here, at Whole Foods, but you can also find it on Amazon. There's a link below. And you know what it tasted like? Like rice and quinoa had a baby. Like it was ricey quinoa or quinoa-y rice. I used it as a base for roasted sweet potatoes, which was a delicious lunch. And you could not tell me anything while I was eating 2 of my indigenous foods. I was like Miss Nigeria. The next food on our ancestral tour of West Africa are cowpeas, also known as black-eyed peas. There's a lot of history in this country surrounding black-eyed peas, and so it is a traditional food for many African Americans. It's grown and eaten all over the world, and I cannot imagine that you would not be able to find a recipe for cowpeas or black-eyed peas that you would absolutely love. And here's what I learned about cowpeas. They are an excellent source of magnesium, which plays a role in over 300 biochemical reactions in the body, including energy production, muscle and nerve function, blood sugar control, and blood pressure management. They're high in calcium, iron, vitamin A, zinc, copper, vitamin K, manganese, and folate. They're rich in soluble and insoluble fiber, which helps with weight management, and they help regulate blood sugar spikes. I still don't know why we call them a pea instead when they're a bean, but who cares? Cowpeas are delicious, nutritious, and indigenous to West Africa. Food on our tour of West Africa is cantaloupe. And you know, I was surprised to learn that cantaloupes were originally grown in the hot, dry savanna regions of Africa and Southwest Asia. I don't know where I thought they were from, but this is why I say you have to get your DNA tested, find out where you're from, and either do the research or get a nerd like me to do it for you. Because that's how you will learn many new things and hopefully be able to try some new foods and recipes. Anyway, more about cantaloupe. Cantaloupe is an excellent source of both vitamins A and C, providing 30% of the daily recommended value of vitamin A and a whopping 60% of the daily recommended value of vitamin C. Cantaloupe also contains selenium and beta-carotene. It's high in water content, which will keep you hydrated and full longer, and it's only 50 calories a serving. So now those are only 3 of the foods indigenous to Nigeria. If you choose to use my food research service, I'll provide you with the complete list. For now, let's keep traveling on my ancestral food tour. My next country of origins are a group of countries, and it's Cameroon, Congo, and Western Bantu peoples of Africa. Cameroon and Congo are in Central Africa, and Western Bantu peoples are those that migrated from, you got it, Western Africa. So, you know, there are many foods from these countries that are similar to Nigeria and Western Africa, but there are some we haven't talked about yet. And you want to know something that made me literally laugh out loud when I discovered that it's in my DNA? Coffee. That's right, this bean is indigenous to Central Africa, and I'm supposed to drink coffee, baby. You have no idea how happy this makes me. Every morning I think about this when I think it's in my DNA, I can have some coffee. According to Healthline magazine, coffee can boost your energy, which we know. It also can lower your risk of type 2 diabetes and depression, support weight management, and help you live a longer life. Just keep in mind that experts recommend limiting caffeine if you're pregnant or nursing. Okay, my next food from this part of the world is rice. And I don't know if I love coffee more than rice, but they are 2 of my top favorite foods for sure. It makes me feel so happy knowing that my love of rice is indigenous to Central Africa and part of my DNA. And here's what I learned about rice. Rice is the seed of a cereal grass. Half the global population depends on rice, and it is a central component of many cuisines, including those of Africa, India, China, and Southeast Asia. There are many types of rice, but broadly speaking, they are categorized by their shape, long or short, and color, white or brown. White rice has had the fiber-rich outer bran of the grain removed along with the nutrient-rich germ. And so white rice has less fiber and protein than brown rice. Brown rice contains both the bran and the germ, making it nutrient and fiber rich. Rice is gluten-free and easy on the digestive system. And as a refined carbohydrate, white rice is a superb source of energy, which explains why it is and has been a staple food across the globe. As we continue our ancestral food tour of Central Africa, we find sorghum, a grain that I must admit I knew little about. But I did my research and this is what I learned. Sorghum is commonly used as animal feed in the United States, but it is more often consumed by people in other parts of the world. The grain can be an ingredient in snack foods and baking and brewing products, and it is sometimes used as a meat extender. Sorghum is an excellent substitute for wheat, rye, and barley for those who cannot tolerate gluten. Sorghum is used to make both leavened and unleavened bread, and because of its gluten-free properties, sorghum is a welcome whole grain alternative for those who deal with gluten intolerance or celiac disease. And so while we may not be familiar with sorghum in the United States, if your DNA is like mine from Central Africa or Asia, you might want to try it. You can find sorghum online from companies like Bob Red's Mill, who, I got this right off their website, and says, sorghum originated in Africa thousands of years ago and spread throughout the Middle East and Asia via ancient trade routes. Today, these super grains are prized for the delicious flavor and texture they add to grain bowls, side dishes, entrees, and baked goods. Now, my third country of origin is Scotland, which is a country in Northwest Europe. And here are 3 foods indigenous to Scotland. Our first food is asparagus. Now, of course, I was familiar with asparagus. I love it, actually. Makes makes sense now that I know where I'm from. But when doing research for food plans, I learned that this vegetable is really amazing. Listen to all the things that asparagus can do for you. It can help with weight loss, help prevent urinary tract infections, is full of antioxidants, contains vitamin E, promotes reproductive health, is great for gut health, is rich in folic acid, is full of vitamin K, and it can also brighten your mood. Sounds like a miracle vegetable, doesn't it? I had no idea that asparagus was from Northwest Europe, but now when I eat it, I know my body is saying, thank you, Angela, thank you so much. Now, let's talk about another food from Northwest Europe, indigenous to Scotland, and that's currants. Currants are small berries like gooseberries that grow in the Northern Hemisphere. There are nearly 200 species of currants and are classified by color, black, white, red, and pink. Black currants are among the fruits with the highest antioxidant value, giving them numerous health benefits. And just in general, currants are like amazing. Like, what can they not do? They can do everything. They help with weight loss, they improve eyesight, they promote brain health, they help asthma patients, and they can be used to treat glaucoma. As if that were not enough, listen to this list of vitamins and minerals found in currants. Iron, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, manganese, vitamin B1, B2, B5, B6, vitamin A. Like, are you kidding me? If you have some DNA from Northern Europe, like me, you better be eating currants. I'm about to add them to like all my little like breakfast cereals, and I'm gonna do everything with some currants because they're amazing. Most of the foods that we have come across on our ancestral tour are super good for you, and currants are as well. However, I did want to mention that black currants may also slow blood clotting. If you have a bleeding disorder or take blood thinning medications like aspirin, speak with your doctor before adding black currants to your diet. And you know, this is a good time to mention that you should always check with your doctor before starting any new eating plan. Now, most of us have heard of this next food, indigenous to Scotland and Northwest Europe, oats. Oats are a whole grain and contain many essential nutrients, including complex carbohydrates with insoluble, soluble, and prebiotic fibers, vitamins, minerals, and plant-based protein. And there are 8 different kinds of oats. And I'm gonna actually read all of them just because when you're in the grocery store and you're looking at all these oats and oatmeal and what's going on, you might be wondering what's it all about. We got whole oats, steel cut oats, which are Irish oats, Scottish oats, rolled oats, which are old fashioned oats, quick oats, instant oats, and then there's also oat bran and oat flour. You know, I could do an entire video on the difference between these varieties, but just to keep it simple, just remember that the less that's done to the oat, like allowing it to stay in its whole intact form without removing the hull, the bran, the endosperm, and the germ, the better. I mean, it only makes sense that if you overly process a food and add a bunch of sugar to it, it will be less healthy. Delicious, yes, of course, but less healthy. So most people boil oats in water or milk and eat it for breakfast, and we call it oatmeal. Oatmeal is a popular breakfast food in the US, and in Europe they call it porridge. And it's one of the most researched foods in the world. And it must have something to do with all of those million-dollar food companies. But the good news is that we now know a lot about oats, and it looks like there's nothing that oats can't do. Listen to some of these benefits. Provide antioxidants, improve insulin response and reduce blood sugar, improve cholesterol levels, promote healthful bacteria in the digestive tract, manage weight, reduce the risk of asthma, and relieve constipation. I mean, wow. Oatmeal also contains a whole bunch of minerals and vitamins, including magnesium, iron, phosphorus, zinc, folate, copper, vitamins B1, and vitamins B5. So if you have any DNA from Northwest Europe and your doctor okays it, you should probably check out oats and one of the forms of oatmeal. So we took an ancestral tour through my top 3 countries of origin and found 3 foods for each one. I hope you found it exciting, and I hope you came across some ideas or learned about some new foods that you're gonna try and think, you know, maybe I'll start eating those myself. But if you really wanna know which foods you should be eating based on your countries of origin, you gotta get your DNA tested. It's the first step. You gotta find out where you're from, and then you can do some research and find out which foods are indigenous to those places. Then you can add some of those foods to your diet and give your body the foods that it really, really craves. Last week, like I said, I made fonio, which is one of the foods from Nigeria, my number one indigenous country, and I had never heard of it. You know, and I made these lunches with fonio and sweet potatoes, and I think I threw some vegetables in there. And you know, I just believe, this is just me thinking, that when I'm eating this, that my body is just thrilled to be getting these foods based on my DNA. I mean, you heard about how healthy all of these foods are, and when we give our bodies the foods that it craves and healthy, it's only good. If you don't want to do all that pesky research and just want a list of the foods that you should be eating, I understand, and I can help you with that. This is a service that I'm planning to offer, and if you're interested, visit eatyourdna.com at the link below, and you can find out more information. Okay. Get your DNA tested and check that out below, and remember, eat your DNA.